Okay, today we're going to tap some titanium. Titanium we're tapping is called 6Al4V. That stands for 6% aluminum and 4% vanadium. These are the parts we're going to tap. Or how you get this thing to focus. These are the parts we're going to tap. The tap drill size is, in the book, it's 469. We bored these out to 475, a little bit oversized. And instead of a regular tap, we're using a modified tap. This is a tap that's had the lead ground, the flank has been ground away. You can see how there isn't as much of the tap left as usual. We ground away the flank of the tap so that there was just a little bit of thread showing there, so we ground about half of it away. The reason we did this is so that there's less material rubbing the inside, of the workpiece against the tap, because when that happens, the part heats up, and titanium has a very low coefficient of expansion due to heat. And what that means is that the heat goes right into the tool, and when the tool gets hot, the tool grows. The tool grows, gets stuck in the part, tap fails, and you spoil the work, as the English like to say. So we modified this tap, and we modified the, I'm trying to get the light right here, we modified the very cutting point too. What they call the lead of the tap. We modified the lead of the tap as well as the flanks of the flutes. The lead of the tap is the first few threads of the tap. Anyway, I can't seem to get it to focus really well close up. I'm using a bloggy. I'm probably going to have to use something else from now on. Anyway, so we modify the tap so it won't get stuck in the part. Not only that, taps are ground, cylindrically ground. Taps don't have relief like end mills do. Reamers and taps and drill bits are ground tapered. They're right on size here. They're under size here. A couple of thousandths. 2-3 thousandths. You'll notice that a half-inch tap also has a reduced shank. This shank is actually under the tap drill size. It actually fits through the hole. So what we're going to do is we're going to tap these through. But when we get to the bottom of the part, we're not going to stop and try to back the tap out, because that will lead to trouble, because the tap is very hot, the part is starting to get warm, and it'll bind, and you won't get it out. You might, but you might booger up the thread, and you might chip the tap. So what we'll do is when we get through the part, we're going to keep going, and we're going to keep going down this way where there's more clearance, and eventually right out the bottom. We're going to use this holder, which I made for an end mill holder. This is what we're going to drive the tap with. It's a piece of metal that's been drilled out to the same size as the tap shank, and then I drilled and tapped a 1/4-20 thread right through the bottom of the hole, and put a couple of set screws in here, and those will bind down on the flats of the tap and drive the tap. And when we get all the way out the bottom of the workpiece, we can stop and we can loosen these screws and remove the holder from the tap, and then we can remove the part from the fixture here and take the tap out the bottom of the work. We're not using regular cutting oil. We're using a high sulfur tapping compound called Anchor Lube. There's another product called Molly-D, molybdenum disulfide, which is an anti-seize compound. You can actually find it in auto parts stores and stuff. It's a black, greasy type of stuff. This stuff is pretty nice, this Anchor Lube. I've never used this before. It looks like it's going to clean off the part a lot easier than Molly-D. So we put the tap in, tighten down these 2 screws. We're going to run the machine at the slowest speed that it goes, which on this machine is about 70 RPMs. I would prefer to go a little slower, but it seems to be working out all right. So now we'll take the part. We're going to screw it into this piece of aluminum here. I made this piece of aluminum on the lathe and used it as a gauge when I made the parts on the CNC lathe. We're going to screw it in. We're going to take some of this molybdenum disulfide. You really don't need very much. You just want to get a coating on there. And some on the flutes to help keep them from rubbing too badly and heating up the workpiece. Turn on the machine, slow as it goes. Drive the tap all the way down through the part. Now it's done tapping now, but we're going to keep going all the way through. And then before the holder bottoms out on the work, we're going to stop it. And we're going to loosen these screws. As soon as I loosen the screws, you'll see the quill pops back up again. And the tap, lo and behold, is loose. It's not bound up in the work. I'm going to use a little piece of brass here so I can unscrew this from the fixture without marking the part. So, unscrew this. Lo and behold, the part is good. See, now if you try to screw this back through the part, it'll stop before it gets there. The tip of this tap is almost too hot to touch it at the moment. After a couple of parts, I have to let it cool down, either put it in some water or something. But you see, it's going to start binding about halfway up. And if you try to back that out of the part, it's going to rub and it's going to heat up the titanium. Titanium's not going to give. It's just going to start to heat up and start to shrink the hole around the tap. But that's it. That's a modified tap, oversized tap drill. Run it straight through the work and use a high sulfur tapping compound. And that way you can tap titanium. Thanks for watching.